I know he answered me like 3 times, and now if I send him any message, all he does is just ... It's like back to me. He doesn't give anything. Oh, this feels like the okay, Joan Wilder, ride us out of this one. Joan Wilder? The Joan Wilder? Oh, I read all your books.
That is a reference I have no clue about.
Oh, Romancing the Stone? Oh, come on. 1984, Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner.
That was the year I was
Danny DeVito.
Long enough. Yeah, you were like a good 10 years.
I was like 13, 14. Yeah, I was 13. So you know what makes my next birthday? Doing that math.
Showdown lineup too. Things we do for the show. What is up, guys? It is that time for the late slate swap and sweat show. We'll be talking about the main slate a little bit. We'll be talking about the night slate and the showdown slate, a little bit of something for everybody who cares about the last few basketball games before the All-Star break. I'm Chris Spags, joined by a man you know and love, the perfect co-pilot for this final show, I think, of at least of the NBA shows. There's still going to be a bunch of other UFC and PGA and NHL and NASCAR going on, but you know him, you love him. He's your old pal, EMac. How you doing, EMac?
I think you said it best. The final few games we care about or don't care about. This is it. I'm going to twist the intonation of that sentence into should we care or do we want to play? This has been a kick in the teeth all the way around. Hockey, by the way, I know a lot of you guys are not playing hockey. They're doing the same thing tonight, even though it's not an all-star break. We've already had 4 or 5 people scratched, and I'm still waiting on a questionable goalie here to find out what's going on. The NBA's been a mess. For those of you just tuning in, Brad Wanamaker is not in the starting lineup. We'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about that some more. And when we're done talking about that, we'll answer questions about that. So
you know what? I'm gonna put out a quote tweet for this rare occasion in the hopes that maybe we can pick up some reciprocal follows. Your Nico Mannion source for the night is what I'm going to tweet out because we're going to try and get some clicks here. I feel like, so I'll leave it up top, and usually we do tilt a little bit more, and I want to talk about some of the things we saw on the Live Before Lock show, where our pal Eric Lindquist, who we know we love to rib as well because he's one of the newer guys around here, and he takes it in such stride, and we appreciate that a bunch. But you might have seen him dying on the vine during tonight's Live Before Lock show, where he was one of the people greatly affected by Paul George getting ruled out early, or getting ruled out late, rather, early in the game, late relative to when Slate would lock. And here's the thing that got me a little tilted, EMac, because I talked about it on this show, talked about it on some of the other shows. Kawhi Leonard got ruled out the other day, and I got to him a ton because of the value that was opened up because of the Knicks and Emmanuel quickly getting to him the other day when Derrick Rose got ruled out. And you know who played a violin for me when Kawhi Leonard got ruled out? Fucking nobody. Meanwhile, they're sending in super chats. They're giving him well wishes. I think FEMA got called in to keep up the waterworks that were welling up under his eyes. But I just need to tilt a little bit because I've put in the man hours, guys. I've been here every day. But when Kawhi gets ruled out, nobody's like, oh, poor Spags, pat. I'm strong enough to take it, EMac, but it hurt, I have to say.
All right. Well, I see they're asking in chat, will someone go check on him? I don't know. I can't see him on Slack, and my last message was not returned from him. So hopefully he'll come in here. I said you can come on the L3S and rant, and he just replies ... I said it will be therapeutic and make for great ratings, as Greg would say. He replies with ...
Poor Eric has to deal with a lot tonight, but he'll dust himself off. That's all we can do in DFS. And I honestly feel like my parable is going to be the one that you need to look at more if you are a regular DFS player, where one night you get all your lineups with Kawhi killed. The next night you get the benefit of Kawhi. And granted, he hasn't come through in a major way, but he has, the opportunity was there, some early foul trouble for him, which is one of the themes of my night between him and Mason Plumlee. But I think that's sort of the situation that happens every night in DFS, and you just got to take it on the chin as our pal Eric did so well. But especially in this current NBA. Hopefully things get a little more stable after the All-Star break. We'll find out. But I teased it on Twitter now, so we have to deliver, EMac. The Nico Mannion, what are we doing with him? Brad Wanamaker was the chalk play of the day. A lot of people, I'm sure, fatigued really after a few weeks of playing NBA DFS, having a late swap pretty much every day just to stay profitable. And now there's one more wrench thrown their way with Brad Wanamaker not starting and still capable of doing a good job off the bench at minimum salary on DraftKings, very cheap on FanDuel as well. So how are you planning on handling it, EMac? Because I teased my viewpoints on Nico Mannion to you before we started the show, but are you going to global swap? Are you going to keep a certain amount of Wanamaker? Are you swap-demizing, trying to get just any minimum salary guys left? What are you trying to do at this time?
I don't even know what to do. And that's the hard part. But we have an hour, and that's the good part. Now, the key knee-jerk reaction you can do is you can global swap to Nico Mannion, who is also 3,000 even. Now, you'll need to know that you'll have to do one swap each for the point guard spot, the guard spot, and the utility spot. So you don't want to wait till the last minute for that. I see that we are putting up some projections here for let's see. So we have Mannion right now for 16 DK points, and we have Wanamaker, he whose name shall remain nameless, for 19 DK points. So they're about the same. So the question I think we really want to ask ourselves is, how much of a chance is there that Wanamaker is a DNP? We already know that Oubre's out, Curry's out, and Draymond's out. No Klay Thompson. So they're somewhat short on bodies. So I was going to...
Bazemore not starting too is interesting because they do want to get Poole minutes. Jordan Poole's the other G League guy they have. So I would just throw that into the mix. I want to finish your point, but I just want to throw that in.
No, I'm calling up their roster to see who the hell's there, because that was my other one. Is I have a ton of Bazemore and a ton of... I'm on 95% Wanamaker. I have probably 60% Bazemore. Let me look here. So these are just massive numbers. Now, I had an upload issue, 43% Bazemore. I had an upload issue, so I missed the first game. I was not doing victory laps because I didn't have Paul George, because I know things are happening. Now, I'm rolling 25% of a goalie who didn't start because I was dealing with another late swap, pre-lock issue in NBA, so I missed that alert, which came through our Slack channel. You can't victory lap these things. We don't know how they're going to turn out. Paul George was a phenomenal play. I think it's kind of odd that the last two times this has happened, basically, it's been the same team that's done it. So that's a little bit frustrating here. But yes, Eric Lindquist, we need a 3-man booth. To reach out to Tyler in Slack and see if he's feeling frisky today. So this is what are the odds that Wanamaker is a DNP? I don't think that's going to happen. What if he only plays 20 minutes instead of the mid to upper 30s we were hoping for? Okay, now he's not going to be as exciting. What if it's Mannion who all of a sudden gets those 19 or 20 points? Is that 5 or 6 points enough to flip? I don't know. And how much will that help you on the field? You need that difference to really be about 10 fantasy points, I think, before it's going to really impact global lineups. And that's the hard part to know. So the first thing we don't want to do is not get mad at ourselves. We don't know what the right answer is. We're not going to know what the right answer is until this game's over, right? For the most part. The wrong answer was playing Yuta Watanabe today, who hasn't made it off the bench yet. So in my Fred Van Elite contest where I said I was going to play Yuta Watanabe, I will now be playing Wanamaker no matter what news we get. And I'm playing Bazemore in that lineup as well. There's my peace offering to everybody. The two guys who were supposed to be starting who aren't starting. But,
Oh, Tyler, getting adventurous with this.
Then we get the soundboard. So...
It could also be Eric Lindquist's pro wrestling theme tonight, that he just enters to that music and then flexes and spits water out like Triple H. I would say for me, so I'll make the case now for Nico Mannion and why I would personally swap away. I don't think Wanamaker is going to be a DNP tonight. I think there's a better chance Bazemore ends up a DNP tonight, and that was enough for me to cut my exposure, not completely get rid of him, because he's been really one of the better players off the bench this year. So if he is playing off the bench, I don't want to completely lose that. That's that said, I think Mannion is really the one-to-one swap you want to make, and no pun intended. That it's the one that you would prefer to have tonight, because Wanamaker, 21 minutes is the projection that Awesemo has, as EMac hinted at earlier. Nico Mannion, a 20-minute projection, which I think is on the safer side. Mannion's been really productive in the G League and in a very small sample size in the major leagues or the NBA so far. A 19.7% usage rate, 12% rebound rate, 43% assist rate. I don't think you can expect those numbers to hold up compared to, I think he played 6 games, averaging 6 minutes per game. So not the largest sample size there. But even if it comes down, we're talking about the shiny new toy. And I don't think coaches are exempt from that, where I think at this point, Steve Kerr knows what he has in Brad Wanamaker, who's a guy who's, shooting worse than he did last year, despite getting some more opportunity. They were kind of giving him the same plays as Steph Curry earlier in the year. And we saw Wanamaker, I think, look more productive with it. He's up to a 0.76 fantasy point per minute guy, which is better than he was with Boston last year. But I think if we go back to him in this spot today, I just don't feel the most confident that he's going to get enough run to make Mannion just not get the run that they want to see out of him. I think this is the spot where they know there's probably not a great shot to beat Phoenix without Steph, without Draymond. So I don't think the Warriors are throwing the game per se, but I think this is one where they're willing to take the L potentially just to see what you have in Mannion, a guy who's been, I wouldn't say lighting up the G League, but has been pretty productive in there. His G League stats actually I had in front of me on my phone, but I'll have to pull them up again. But he's been averaging, I think, like over 15 points, over 5 rebounds, over 5 assists. Like the numbers for him look solid around the board, to the point that if you believe in the G League and believe in the quality of the G League getting better, I think just going to him here and hoping that he can be more productive than what a Wanamaker, who we know is a known quantity, like I think that's the move right now. And probably getting away from it entirely would be the move if you are just trying to get different, and maybe not taking Mannion or Wanamaker, just taking Andrew Wiggins, a guy we know can produce at this level. But I think if you're willing to take the risk like I am, Mannion is a guy I'd want by a wide margin over Wanamaker.
I think that's the appropriate way to go on all of this. But then the question becomes, who I think Jordan Poole's kind of interesting here. I think Damian Lee is somewhat interesting as well. He was the guy that filled in when who was it? D'Angelo Russell was hurt last year, and the cast of thousands were injured. He had a few nice games and nice moments. Of course, so did Eric Pascal, who has done nothing but garbage this year, but here we are. So I think I don't want to overlook those two guys as well, but knowing who is going to be the best, now we've just gotten into complete whack-a-mole phase. And frankly, this team is now at the point where are they a functional NBA squad? And that's where we want to get nervous. And we saw Houston a couple was it, I guess last weekend when they lost by 63 or whatever it was to Memphis. And I thought, and they only had John Wall, and then they had, their other rotation guys who were, on most teams would be 7th, 8th, 9th men, and they'd be completely fine. But they have a whole team of them, and they all were horrible. That's going to happen. That's what's at risk here. So just because they all get the minutes in the run doesn't matter. We saw a shorthanded Detroit team last night gobsmack the Toronto Raptors, who had 2 starters and 3 guys off the bench combined for 75 minutes and no buckets on 10 attempts. Those guys got the run and nothing happened. So that's the hard part here, is to just know where the goodness is going to come from, because frankly, Phoenix is a much improved defense as well. And that's not helping us. And it's not like, this isn't the old Phoenix mailing it in. They're like, oh, we got a gimme win right here. We're going to take it. And I fully expect them to win, but who gets the run? And now we're back to your point. Do they give it to the younger guys over the second half? That would seem to make the most sense. What if one of them has 3 fouls though? Chris, can you play with 3 fouls?
Yeah, apparently not. If Mason Plumlee and I guess, well, Kawhi had 2 and then lost this time earlier. But that's unfortunately the nature of DFS. We talk about a lot on this show, and our pal Greg Ehrenberg ranted about earlier. Mason Plumlee, I think, would have been on a roll to have a nice day. And I think once you start losing those minutes to foul trouble, all of a sudden you see this the game go askew. And I guess we could talk back about that a second, because we're talking about Golden State, so we might as well dig a little deeper here and also give the starters just for the sake of clarity here, because I think there may be some surprises to people if you're not paying close attention. It is Nico Mannion starting, as we mentioned, Andrew Wiggins. Then you have Damian Lee, Juan Toscano Anderson, and James Wiseman. And I think Wiseman, our pal Eric, I guess, trying to get his money back by playing some Wiseman today. He's only projected for 21 minutes today, EMac, but let's talk about the other Warriors, because I honestly think this show, maybe when we actually have to talk about the game a little bit more, at least up top. Wiseman, to you, if he's playing 21 minutes at 4,200 on DK, is he a core play for you or a guy you're just mixing and matching? Or I'm just curious to see how you feel about him, because the minutes haven't been there since he's got back in the lineup.
So Damian Lee, Juan Toscano Anderson, and probably Jordan Poole are going to be the three guys I'm most interested in, followed by Mannion, and then still Wanamaker at that point. But now instead of being 95%, it's more probably like 20% for him, where I'd rather double that for Poole and double that with Lee on the late slate. I don't know what I'm going to do yet on the main slate, but again, I'm back to the question of, what is the right play? And if the differential is 10 points or less, which it's probably going to be, does that move the needle at all? It might help with some min cashes, especially depending on your contest format and how many people had Paul George tonight. But, it's going to be hard to tell for sure. So my approach is going to be to kind of just, sprinkle them, let the chips fall where they may, let the randomness, little gust from the gods, whatever it needs to be, and hopefully the right grouping comes together. But I would lean first towards the guards. And then, we haven't mentioned Kevon Looney. We haven't mentioned Pascal. I'm not really excited about them. I'm not really excited about Wiseman. Do you think he plays more than 20, 24 minutes tops?
I don't feel the most confident. Honestly, Looney would be one guy I might completely eliminate from a player pool for the night slate, where I don't have the most confidence that he gets back in, especially because Phoenix, as we saw the other day with Montrezl Harrell, where he basically got played off the floor when he got some second unit minutes. And then Damian Jones ended up playing because I guess he was just big enough to make it uncomfortable for the smaller Phoenix group. But Phoenix plays small in that second unit with Sarge at center. Sometimes Kaminsky does functionally play the center as backup too, but really either guy, not the center that's going to do a lot of damage to you. So I feel like it could be just Wiseman playing minutes tonight, and then you just get weird for that second unit. Maybe go Pascal at the 5 and don't see Looney get any minutes. I just don't have the most faith. Like, the thing for me, somebody in the chat was saying earlier that they were saying if there's a blowout, like Nico Mannion's not going to play, Brad Wanamaker's going to play. And I think it's the exact opposite of what to expect here, where they're either going to have better results because the first unit plays better than it looks like, and the second unit with Wanamaker and Pascal and whomever's in that group also keeps them in the game. But I think if the game gets out of hand, like, you want to see the G League guy. You see Wanamaker every night. You just saw Wanamaker yesterday. He's theoretically your backup point guard for the rest of the run. And they might just also want to see how Mannion handles himself, if he can fill in that role, if they decide to go in a different direction than Wanamaker, given that he really hasn't shot that well this year. Like, he's a guy who's supposed to be a knockdown shooter, shooting 21% from 3, shooting 48% true shooting. These aren't great backup point guard numbers for a Golden State offense that relies on everybody doing their own impression of Steph Curry for the most part. So for me, I feel like EMac's kind of on where I would view it, where I think the core plays are Wiggins. I think Wiseman is a core play. I think Lee is as well. I have a little bit less confidence in Bazemore just because he's not starting. And to me, there doesn't make a lot of sense why he would have started yesterday with Oubre out and not start today, unless you're just going to give him less run. I'm not going to take him out of my player pool, but I think he's less of a priority than he would have been if he were starting. And Mulder, I think is in the mix, but I think his minutes get squeezed a little bit by having Jordan Poole in the mix, who they saw last year, not a true point guard like a Mannion or a Wanamaker theoretically is. Poole just kind of a gunner who I think just does the same thing as Mulder. So those guys, to me, I think in the mix, but on a second tier below it all. And then Wanamaker, I would put in that group too, where I just feel like it's Mannion, it's Wiggins up on top for me, and Wiseman not too far behind. And I don't know, everybody else, just get what you get, because that's some of the guys talked about earlier today. There's still a lot of bodies there. So you're not even getting concentrated minutes necessarily. You still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You have 10 guys expected to get minutes, maybe 11.
We have 11 in the projections now. We just got a new update, and I think we need some likes before we talk about the new update here.
Okay, let's let me see. A minutes projection or an ownership projection?
A player projection, which would also be the minutes. Now, you said Mulder, so I have a new reference. Mulder, the truth is out there, right? You got that one? Brad Wanamaker, trust no one, right?
I know the X-Files. I remember. Okay. I didn't watch it, but I do know the X-Files, yeah.
All right. Well, I had to jump 15 years forward from Romancing the Stone, so there.
That's one that I
wasn't even that. No, maybe even 10 years. Yeah.
Honestly, I remember it more from when they did a crossover episode of The Simpsons than I do the actual X-Files show, but that's just me. But I might be. I know Tyler, I'm sure, has a even smaller knowledge crossover with EMac because of the age range. That's really where it gets weird. The extra 4 years I have. So I wouldn't even insult you, Tyler. I just assume that I'm just closer to EMac's age, unfortunately for all of us. Let's keep going through the rest of Golden State here. And Jordan Poole, anybody, do you want to play him at all? He's only projected for 10 minutes here. I guess to give you guys the minutes projection, and you can always get these yourselves at awesemo.com/join. As EMac mentioned, they're part of the player projections. We also have ownership projections, a boom bust tool. All those get updated throughout the entire slate. So make sure you're getting in, checking out all the packages that we have at awesemo.com/join. But even with the, I guess, the more opportunity grouping that we're expecting to see for Golden State, it's only 10 minutes for Jordan Poole, EMac. Is that enough to get in the mix for you, or would you prefer to take Mulder at 20 minutes, given that that does seem a little more secure, even though the starting minutes aren't there?
I've got to go with Jordan Poole still. I think he's the more talented guy, and I would think he has the better future than Mulder. But I mean, this is a one-nighted sample size in addition. Now I'm a little biased by, because I had some nice games with Mulder, with Poole, and with Damian Lee last year, and that's probably clouding my judgment. Mulder, all I can think of is the former Oakland A's pitcher or somebody, Mark Mulder, something like that.
I think Mark Mulder sounds right.
Yeah, so I immediately dismiss Mulder, which I don't think is correct. So I'm going to go look at his game log and see if that can sway me. So currently we have, that's tiers contest. We have Mulder projected for 13 fantasy points. He has not played more than 20 minutes this year. Let's see. He got some run in the dregs of last season, right before, about a year ago. He was seeing in the mid to upper 20s most of the way, and even in those games, so this is comparable, right? That was a decimated team. So 32 minutes, 25 DK points, 24 minutes, 15, 35 minutes, 24, 31, 26, 34, 23. So let's say he gets the 34 minutes and gets 23 fantasy points, and let's say Wanamaker somehow just happens to be his direct replacement, and he gets, the 14 minutes and gets 11 fantasy points. Now we're talking about that 12, 13 fantasy point difference. It's still not giant. And that, I think, would be the most likely disparate outcome that we would get, short of a DNP. And what I'm trying to explain to people for this, even if you guess right on either of these guys, I don't think it's a huge difference maker at this point.
Yeah, I
agree.
The
way so many other things have broken on this slate of Jokic not doing great, Svi Mikhailiuk doing stuff like that. It's not quite we're not feeling quite as optimistic as we were before tip-off.
Yeah, I just think for me with Mulder, I know people remember him because he did play last year, but this year only 0.69 fantasy points per minute, which not the nicest number when it's your fantasy points per minute. Jordan Poole also 23% usage coming back into the lineup, and he has been a decent bit of a gunner, and that's really been his only value in the league. Or and even then, he's not good at it, but that's just sort of what he did when he got some meaningful playing time for the Warriors previously. I just wouldn't go there. I would find a little more money to get to Damian Lee, who's starting and has been fairly productive per minute, about a 0.77 fantasy point per minute guy. I just think at this point, moving away from the Warriors bench that's going to be crowded with guys who are not used to playing together seems like the worst move to me. And I would just favor the starters because they're cheap enough here where you're not getting a big discount going to the bench and trying to guess those minutes right. So for me, lock Nico Mannion. Why not? Lock him in. Hit the like button.
It's only money, Chris. It's only money.
It is only money. And in 7 minutes here, it's going to be money time, which is still a part of the late slate sweat and swap show, even though I haven't been on live before lock as much this week with some of the schedules moving around. So thank God for that with all the news going on. Really, one of the highlights of my week has not been dealing with that. But hit the like button, guys. Get us to a respectable 150 likes. We've got 520 people in the room right now. And that seems like an easy number to hit. And if you guys do that, I'll give you guys the top 5 owned plays on DraftKings and FanDuel for the night slate as well as for the showdown. So make sure to hit that like button now. And of course, you can always get them yourselves for free, or not for free, but for what feels like free relative to the money you'll be winning at awesemo.com/join. So check out the packages on there. The Express packages in particular are a pretty good deal because you're getting the premium Slack with those, even if you are not using the full projections that we get with the full packages. Let's see here. General question. Why are we so focused on Brad and Nico when the top plays can easily fit a lineup without that many pay-up options? That must mean you're playing on FanDuel. If you're playing on DraftKings, the way that you afford going to Fox and Lillard and really whatever else you want on the slate is by taking one of Mannion and Wanamaker. So on FanDuel, you're taking a different value play. And actually, I'm curious to see the ownership for FanDuel for the night slate, because I assume that, Harrison Barnes, once again, a popular play as he was yesterday. Robert Covington, the value play is not really as crucial on FanDuel because you can afford to get to Lillard and Fox fairly easily, especially without having a tremendous pay-up option at center. That's like a different game entirely, where these guys probably, I could see playing Mannion on FanDuel and if you're playing some amount of lineups, but for the most part, you're cycling through Lillard, Fox, and Chris Paul and probably not looking back, EMac, unless you feel differently here. I just feel like the value plays are going to be crucial for the night slate on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I think you can actually mostly avoid them.
So they are crucial, but you can choose a variety of them, right? So like the number one raw lineup here is De'Aaron Fox, Gary Trent, Bazemore, Juan Toscano Anderson, Wiseman, Lillard, Wiggins, and Enes Kanter. That's number one. So we're using Bazemore, Toscano Anderson, and Wiseman as our cheapies. The next lineup also has those three. The third lineup has Toscano Anderson, James Wiseman, and it goes with Covington and Nemanja Bjelica. The second one has Eric Pascal in it too. So it's tomato. On those, I don't trust any of those guys any more than the other two. I'd rather have the guard that's probably going to have the ball in their hands the most. And in each of those lineups is two of those three is Bazemore, and we don't know what the hell's going to happen with him, right? So this is all. Now we're all back to if you don't trust Bazemore, and now you've got 3,500, who else can you look at? Okay, that would be the two guards that we just said we may not need. You can downgrade from Gary Trent, but right now we project him for about 30 fantasy points. That on this slate, because of what's going on in Golden State, becomes a raw points play because those other guys aren't projecting for more than low 20s. So all of a sudden, Gary Trent could be the leverage spot of this slate. That's how you've got to look at some of these things. I see that the Colts, Steve Buzzard is in the chat. Multi-time millionaire winner, Steve Buzzard, I believe 2-time millionaire winner.
Also, we got somebody in chat who might be tilting more than our pal Eric Lindquist, Brian DeVoe, and Caps Lock. He's been mad this entire chat, and I just saw a couple stream by, but this one's Cap Locks. NBA DFS is a waste of time and money, so go spend time with your damn families. He's very mad about it. I have to assume that's somebody who played Paul George tonight, but that's honestly the you got to be able to deal with it. I'll say the nature of DFS, but that's just what it is. Like, the sooner you accept that, if you want to keep playing it and obviously playing within your bankroll, check out some of the bankroll management stuff that Awesemo has pinned in the Learn DFS tab on top of the site. Like, if you want to dig deeper on that, and if you're doing it wrong, like, you really need to figure it out sooner than later. But you can't get that mad about it. It's going to benefit you guys some days. It's going to kill you some days. And I think my Kawhi Leonard parable from earlier is really the best example of it. And it sucks. Like, I think the league should do more. Somebody I saw earlier suggested that you should be able to swap your lineups until tip-off, and I know that would give slightly more work to the bettors, or to the sites rather, that are running everything to the house. And I think they make enough money off of us where that would not be a crazy thing to me by any stretch. And if you could just keep that going, because it seems like we still usually have a 15-minute window before tip-off where we're getting this news and we can't swap. So I think
the NBA needs to borrow a page from MLB. MLB starts when they say they're going to, but you notice how they stagger. Sometimes some games are 7:05, 7:07, 7:10. So if we know TNT is always going to be late, fine, then call that one the X minus 20 or the X plus 20 minutes tip off, and the other ones you call them X plus 10 or X plus 12, whatever it's going to be, and they can align to it. That's the hardest thing. If you've noticed, DraftKings is doing this now with NASCAR, because NASCAR's start time and when the race actually starts is a good 35 minutes. So it's not like there's not precedence or a way to do this. You just can't outkick that cushion, which they should have enough influence. Forget them having influence in the league. The league should have enough, gumption to just say, we're going to start this game at this time and then do it. It's not that hard. I mean, that's my thing, is where it's like
it should come from the top down, and we can sort of talk about it, at great length, because it's definitely been this year more than any, I think, has proven that it's something that should be discussed. But I think that's really the main thing here. Lousy Drunk saying, dudes giving advice to their competition with 500 lineups versus my one. I don't play 500 lineups tonight. I enjoy MMEing when I can, but because of the show schedules, for the most part, I do tend to stick to the 20 maxes and then throwing some ones in the three maxes, single entries, whatever dollars that I'm feeling in that particular night. But the advice that we give for the most part is going to be for everybody. It's not, we talk about the ideas of exposure caps and all that for the people who are MMEing, but for the most part, you got to be able to figure out some of the top plays for yourself, and then the pivot points of all that if you're playing one entry, and make sure you're playing your one entry in a single entry, because the one reason I feel like one thing that a lot of people miss, if you're putting your one entry into whatever $20 tournament on DK in a given day, like, you're going to burn through that money fast. Like, that money's not doing a lot for you. Whereas if you're doing a single entry, it's a fair game. And that's another thing that we talk about on this show that Awesemo has preached a lot. You have to be able to max enter the tournaments that you're going into, or just be willing to accept the loss on money. And I think that's something people forget, especially when they're playing DFS for the first time.
Yeah, and to further that point, I won't play in the mini max and these other giant contests, but I'll start playing in the same dollar level contests when they come down to the 300 person, right before lock, when they're kicking out those, DK starts putting out the $301 entry, or the $501 or the $101 entries, and you can only play 7 or 6 or 12 or whatever it is. I'll play in those. And when you win one of those, you win like $40. If it's like the $300 one, to win $40 on a $1 entry in the $50,000 contest, you basically need to finish in the top 100. Which is easier, finishing in the top 100 out of 58,000 people, or finishing first out of 310 people? Just saying, it's math. And as for the exposures, think of it this way. If we say I've got 80% of somebody and you're playing one lineup, that means they should probably be in your lineup. If we're saying we have 30% of somebody, that's kind of a give or take. Now we're saying, who else do you have 30% of? Okay, well, here's those 9 other guys. Now you need to pick 3 of them, right? That's kind of how that works. So to use it directionally, when you're listening to the because I didn't play mass multi-entry for a long time, but that's how I would listen to people, because I like to build 2 or 3 lineups by hand, or 10 or whatever it might be. Now I've got the tools to do otherwise, but that's how you should approach that.
Yep, right. I agree. And Brandon McNeil in the YouTube chat saying, no need to respond to negativity, Spag. It's money time. So it's all correlated here. Money time is all about the most profitable time in DFS. And Brandon McNeil saying, no need to respond to the negativity. Some get it and others don't. That's really the thing that I feel. And this is one of my flaws as a human being, is that I always believe that people are salvageable and people are going to learn. And I think on the internet, especially when, there's a disconnect here, we're not in the same room, we're not talking over at a bar or whatever, you're not going to relate to me maybe as much on a human level, unless you are spending a lot of time here. And I hope you do. But for the most part, we want people to have a good time. And I think lately for me, especially, and I get it because this has been a tough run. I've talked about the run that I had where I had Draymond Green late scratched one day, 50% of my lineups, had Steph Curry late scratched the next day, had 30% of my lineups, had Kawhi late scratched the other day, 30% of my lineups. Like, it sucks, but like, that's kind of the risk you absorb for enjoying the fun of this, or profiting off of it, hopefully, with, taking the right steps for yourself and learning things and not being bullheaded and, trying to trust the data and all that. But I think that's sort of what we have this show for, is we can get a little bit looser with things and try to talk about it earnestly, because it can be stressful. I think especially when you're at the end of the night and you're like, fuck, I have to tilt into the late slate now. Like, I think it sucks, but that's sort of the way that it goes, and the better headspace you have for it, the better off you're going to be. And we are in money time here, and you guys did a good job getting the likes up.
Starting. For people, Buddy Hield is going to start tonight.
Cool, good. So Buddy Hield starting, so no changes for Sacramento there. Still no Tyrese Halliburton. We'll talk more about them now that we know the Hield news. Let's give out ownership, because I think this is going to be pretty close to our final product. Came out 14 minutes ago, so smash that like button, guys. Get us to at least 150 while I give you guys a top 5 plays for free for the DraftKings and FanDuel night slate, as well as a showdown slate. And if you get more than 150, hey, more power to you. Drown out the negativity always with positivity, and nothing's more positive than a like button. button. But on DraftKings, number one overall owned play, according to our ownership projections at Awesemo.com, which you can always get for yourself at Awesemo.com/join. Damian Lillard, 71% on DraftKings. Number two, De'Aaron Fox, 57%. Number three, Chris Paul, 42%. Number four, Andrew Wiggins, 39%. And number five, Devin Booker at 38%. EMac, even for a night slate, the value seems like it's now bubbled down enough where Nico Mannion is, boy, he's low enough here. 22% Nico Mannion, Wanamaker down to under 10%. The value play that people are taking seems to be Juan Toscano Anderson, 35% for him. He's actually the number 6 overall guy, so you got a bonus there. But EMac, do you feel like that's odd here? Are you thinking the Juan Toscano Anderson value might be the best one? Because following ownership usually is the pathway to finding the best plays.
I think he is the best play. He's the one guy that I haven't said I'm going to dilute. I like that he's starting. I think he's a reasonable player. He can shoot, he can defend, he can kind of do a little bit of everything. If they are going small, which they're probably going to have to at any point in time when Wiseman's not on the court, because it'll either be Looney or Pascal, or he's a functional 5. He is the nominal 5, like in the same way Nemanja Bjelica. It could be different type of player, but it'll be functional for him there. Super chat here from Joe Sosbo says Spags and EMac equal powerhouse. Thank you. I could not do this without Chris Spags.
Oh, that's so kind. Look, I love having these shows. I think overall, EMac, one of my regular partners here, Greg, Eric Lindquist, it's been a fun show here. And I think the luxury we have is that we only have a couple games to talk about usually. And usually they're not as newsy here. So
yeah,
it's
the uncertainty is high tonight. So.
Squeak Diesel asking a question, and we'll take this one real fast here, then jump back to the FanDuel ownership. So keep smashing that like button, guys. I feel like we haven't gotten to 150 yet. And now you're just making me look like a dick at this point. But let's asking about Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield, I think, is a very interesting play. So the minutes for him have been gigantic recently. And I think you have some reason to be a little bit concerned that he doesn't get above 40 minutes here. The fact he's been 38 and 42 in the last 2 games. Definitely enough injuries there to see how that could happen with no Halliburton in the mix. And also, no Glenn Robinson anymore. They also don't have Jabari Parker, haven't had Whiteside. So there's ways for him to keep the minutes up. Awesemo today has him at 36 minutes, and that feels like it's fine. Obviously, if you get there, the reason Buddy Hield has outlier days is he's going to be shooting the lights out. He's playing a crappy Portland team who has a 114 defensive efficiency rating. So I have no reservations playing Hield tonight. And if he plays poorly, it's just because he's Buddy Hield. It's not because I think the minutes are going to be something that we should expect to be that bad.
Yep. The other reason I'm looking with why I want Toscano Anderson, running back to that, why he's kind of popular, is he is just enough points ahead of those guys that he has barely the point per dollar advantage.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's about right.
Which is not something I thought we'd say tonight, but here we are.
Let's do the FanDuel top 5. And over here, again, no value to be found for the FanDuel top 5. Damian Lillard, number 1, 86% owned. So if you want to get different from a lot of the field, I don't know, that's the right move. I think I talked about on enough shows today, including the tip-off show with Ben Rossa today, where he liked the over on the Damian Lillard 3-pointers prop. It was at 4.5 earlier today. I'm not sure where it is right now. But going against Sacramento, who does give up a lot of unassisted 3-pointers, this is kind of the ideal Damian Lillard spot. So I would be still inclined to play him even with the 86%, but just got to point out that's the way to get different right away. De'Aaron Fox, number 2 at 71%. Number 3, Devin Booker at 62%. Number 4, Harrison Barnes at 61%. And number 5, Robert Covington at 52%. EMac, I think Covington out of this group would be the one that I'd be willing to move away from. And I got to see the other power forward plays. You could go Crowder and Bagley. I like that pairing a little more. Bjelica, still a value play. I just feel like Covington, there are some days he's had recently that feel unsustainable to me, even with some of the boosts we've talked about. He does rebound better without having more minutes, without Harry Giles on the floor now has been really a thing that does affect him overall. Been shooting the 3 better. But how do you feel about the top 5, EMac? Covington, Barnes, Booker, Fox, Lillard, any of them scream fade to you?
Well, I remember the last time we were on together and I was saying less than kind things about Robert Covington, and he has since had 2 good games. He also has managed to go a combined 13 of 24 from the field there, as opposed to his prior few games, 1 for 8, 0 for 5, 2 for 4, 4 for 11. We're catching a nice streak here. The rebounds are definitely up for him, 9, 10, and 10 in the stocks. 5 combined block steals, 4 combined block steals. That's really helped his game out. I think he's perfectly fine. He's flashing that upside that we know he has, but just know it's going to ebb and flow. Prior to these two awesome games, he had 17, 12, and 20 fantasy points. Prior to that, 40, 36, 37, 31. He's the perfect tournament play. Just be ready to, like the guy does on the GIF where he closes his computer and throws it out the window. that could be you. So
could always be you in DFS, as we've seen tonight in the chat more than ever. But stay strong, guys. Let's do the ownership projections for the showdown as well real fast, and then we can take some questions, talk about whatever we haven't hit on. And I think we haven't touched the Phoenix side at all, but really to me, that's playing the big three there, and assuming that, or hoping really that Golden State can hang in long enough to get their run of minutes. But for the showdown on DraftKings, the overall ownership, not the captain or the utility ownership, Chris Paul, number 1, 71% overall. Devin Booker, number 2 at 70%. Number 3, DeAndre Ayton at 65%. Number 4, Andrew Wiggins at a rounded up 62%. And number 5, Mikal Bridges at 50%. EMac, same question here. Out of this 5, is there one that seems like you wouldn't take him? And I think we have to also think about it through the lens of the value, where if you're playing a value play, you're pretty much going to be able to easily get to Paul, Booker, and Ayton, and Wiggins too, in really every configuration.
If I would rank them Booker number 1, because I think if they get ahead, wouldn't this be a nice? He didn't make the All-Star game, right? I haven't even looked to see. There's no way he made it.
He didn't initially, but then he got voted in because somebody was out because for injury.
I was hoping this would be we'll just turn him loose because he's going to have the break, right? Because he's the. I still think he and Ayton have a better chance of playing deeper into the game than Chris Paul. I would put them ahead of him, even though 9 times out of 10 I prefer Chris Paul. I would just in this scenario, I'd go with them first because I think they'll have the quickest hook for him.
Yeah, Booker was my captain choice for the DraftKings lineup I did for Showdown, just because he's going to be owned a good amount, but I'm leaving money on the table. Not as much as some people in the chat were. And I guess it's one thing we could talk about in a second, because one of, I think it was Melissa asking in the premium Slack about
should she leave 17,000 on the table?
Like, that feels a little lofty, but let's circle back and do the FanDuel ownership real fast, because I think that we've got to make sure we're covering everybody on FanDuel too. But the total ownership on FanDuel: Chris Paul, number 1, 76%. Number 2, Devin Booker, 72%. Number 3, DeAndre Ayton at 64%. Number 4, Andrew Wiggins at 58%. And number 5, Mikal Bridges at 49%. And that's total ownership. And then the MVP is Chris Paul and Booker in the lead. Same thing for the captain on DraftKings. So keep that in mind. I feel like Chris Paul is going to be chalky on both sides, so I don't know who else could even score enough that Paul is to make the final lineup. But Mikal Bridges to me is really the one dude I don't think should be top 5 here. Like, I think that if they get a blowout going, Mikal Bridges is going to play less minutes, and you're probably seeing guys like Jay Crowder hit more shots, seeing really all the peripheral guys, and maybe that is Bridges too. But I think that, to me, I'd rather just get away from Bridges, and I wouldn't mind just going down pretty heavy at, it's really one of the value plays, going to a Toscano Anderson over Bridges, going to Wiseman over Bridges. That to me just jumps out as being the play that I don't love, EMac. But do you have any stronger feelings for Mikal Bridges, who's been good? I mean, I just don't think he's a dude where if they play 25 minutes for the starters, I don't know how he gets there unless he's the initiator of a blowout, and that seems unlikely.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I'm not getting. I just ran my night slate lineups and I didn't get to any Mannion. How crazy is that?
I mean, the minutes projection that Awesemo gave him gives me some concern. I'm going to try to hope that he plays more minutes and nobody wants to swap to him. That's really my saving grace for the night, hopefully.
All right. Well, in that case, I also did not get any Jordan Poole. I am now giving myself 25% of Jordan Poole. That is going to be where I make my stand. I'm going to do that by capping him at 25%. I'm giving him 20 points. That should get him there. Let's see what it does when I hit crunch. That's how you can artificially force something that got me at 25%. So there we are. There's that lineup. Now I got to figure out what the heck I'm going to do with the main slate. Leaving myself 17 minutes here.
Hopefully just enough time for you. And I got all my lineups in, so I can definitely cover for whatever.
Well, just when it's like I have players who are theoretically playing. They're now not in the starting lineup. But what do we do? So I'm going to add in some more Jordan Poole on my main slate lineups. I'm now down to I've swapped out just the point guard position from Mannion from Wanamaker to Mannion, and that gave me half and half now the way it worked out. So I'm going to go look at the guard spot and probably swap Wanamaker out there for maybe Poole, but I'll have to quickly look at how much is Poole? Is that a 1-for-1? I didn't even look at that yet. Let's.
Also, I
it is. That's a 1-for-1. So yeah. So I'm going to swap Poole in for Wanamaker in the guard spot and get rid of him there, and that should give me probably 20% or so Poole. I'm guessing. I will let everybody know because at this point the money's on fire. Might as well wave it around and make a scene.
You're not swapping to Mannion. The disrespect to both.
I did. I have half Mannion now.
Okay, fine.
I'm half Mannion, half machine.
You're half Mannion, half amazing. Is that where you're going?
There we go. I should have said that.
Is this if this is a real add more funds in the YouTube chat? I'm not sure if you're viewed as a competitor or not, but boy, do I appreciate your site. But he's asking, have we got an EMac breakdown on what he thinks about Spags' hat? Knowing it's my old pal EMac, I have to assume only supportive things.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm saving this hat to wear when it's your birthday, Chris. I'm gonna have to wait a couple of weeks.
Oh, we're not there yet. No, we got 4 more years, buddy. Don't you? How dare you? How dare you? Though I will be a dignified 40-year-old wearing my fucking money hats. You're doing the same bits on YouTube. Suave, $2 super chat asking, would you play Damian Lee on FanDuel? I don't mind him. I just don't think I don't know that you need to play him on FanDuel today just because he's not a play you need to make on FanDuel. If it's your only lineup, I would say probably not. And I'm going to go back to the FanDuel projections real fast to see where I land with it because I didn't play any lineups on FanDuel for the night slate. I think you would have to go, like Wiggins. Wiggins is a small forward on FanDuel, or is that just? I mean, you'd have to go Booker for one of the spots, I would think. And yeah, I think it's Wiggins and Booker. Like Wiggins could have a terrible day, but I don't think Damian Lee has like the 40 fantasy point day with all these guys back in there with the Jordan Pooles, with the Mannions, with the Wanamakers, with the Michael Mulders. Like it's a lot of dudes keeping Damian Lee from doing his full upside thing that he's capable of. So I would still go to Wiggins and go to Booker over Damian Lee by a pretty wide margin on FanDuel. EMac, do you see any use for Damian Lee or really any of these Golden State kind of flotsam guys who will rule out Nico Mannion because I think he's such a class act, and even Wiseman, but any of the other guys, would you get close to playing him on FanDuel?
No, most likely not.
I just don't think you need the savings. Like everything I'm seeing seems to indicate you don't need it. And if you take it, you're getting weird and you're getting different on FanDuel, but it's just not the same play as on FanDuel as it is on DraftKings. And you're going to be leaving a lot of money on the table on FanDuel, I would think.
All right. 33% Jordan Poole. That feels a little bit aggressive.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's where we are. And your boy Mannion is Nico Mannion is on 45% of my teams, which now leaves me with Wanamaker on 17%.
I really hope that there are people out there who are going to play Nico Mannion with me because I feel like depending on the projection systems that people are using out there.
How much do you have? I have 45%. That seems like a lot.
Let me see. I would have to export. I'll do it just for the sake of knowing here because I swapped so many things around manually. I didn't run a swap demise here, but I played.
Oh, I'm just on the DK lineups page.
Oh, on my night slate, I played him in both the lineups I put into the big tournament and then the one showdown too. I played him in everything. And then for the main slate, I will find out momentarily. But I just believe in the opportunity and guys being good in one start and then maybe never being good again. But he's been good in the G League. Like he's been a notable human being in the G League, enough for me to take the leap of faith. And if Wanamaker puts up 50 today, then you know what? I didn't deserve to win anyway.
To everybody saying, Spags, you didn't deserve to win no matter what.
That's unfortunately probably true. All right, let me see. Let me paste this in to see my final exposures for the main slate because I'm actually just as curious as you are. I was going to do it before the show and figured it wouldn't matter that much.
A tip to add more funds, Matt. We appreciate the super chat. He's good people.
Oh, there we go. I'm glad. I never know. Like I feel like sometimes there are things that go on in the DFS world that I'm not privy to, and I don't pay enough attention to anything besides.
Well, the boss man does mention his tools and equipment on some of the shows. So
good. The NBA Wowie on Add More Funds is one of my favorite tools, one that I use every day. And definitely, if you are always wondering about the rate data and all that, I know there are some other sites that do that, but Add More Funds only has improved the NBA Wowie tool from when they got it from the other owners over there. I ended up with 96% Mannion, so I am fully team Mannion for the main slate on the assumption that nobody's going to trust me or trust Nico, me and my old pal Nico. Well, this will be the thing that I die on the hill, and I don't get to brag about it if I'm right tomorrow. This is the part that sucks.
That's what Twitter's for. That's what true. Slack is for. And you short sold us. We actually do have one more NBA show before the regular season starts again. That'll be Sunday night. NBA All-Star Game live before lock. T McPhee and I somehow have been conned into doing a show. We welcome anyone to join us as a third man on the booth.
I'm sure that's a great time, EMac, but once I didn't get that booking, Chris, our other producer, Chris, one of our newer guys here who's heading up some of our content initiatives, mentioned that like, oh yeah, like there's an all-star thing. And I was like, well, nobody told me about it, so I don't assume I'm clear.
I think everybody took a step back, and T McVie and I were standing going, wait, what? Have we been voluntold? What's going on?
Terry's going to make sure he cares about customer success. That is his title here at Awesemo, and he's going to bring it even for the All-Star Game. So I respect that. I like the All-Star Game and the Pro Bowl for some reason are the two things I personally just can't get up for, where it's like, I just don't know what it's going to be. And I don't even want to pretend. Like I can pretend here all day. I'm just reading these names off a script. No, I'm kidding. But because sometimes somebody's out there is going to take that literally. But for the All-Star Game, it's just like, I don't know. How many alley-oops is LeBron going to miss today? I have no idea.
It's hard. The worst was Jimmy Butler choosing to not play and not tell anybody he was going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Greg S.J. playing Mannion. Thank you, Greg S.J. I knew I could count on you, our regulars here. Kyle John asking Sarge or Crowder. We've actually gotten a few Sarge questions.
I'm leaning towards Sarge in this one. I think he's getting healthy, and I think he's someone that might get a few more minutes just because he's missed so much of the season in the event there's a blowout. I think they let him get his. Crowder, they're not really going to worry about that, I don't think. He'll get plenty of minutes. There's plenty of people he can defend. Well, not that they're stellar, but they're all the perfect size and positions for him in this positionless basketball game. So I think that's a good one for there. But I would lean towards Sarge personally.
Crowder projects better, and he also projects for 8 more minutes. But I think that's sort of the reason on a shorter slate where there's such obvious value to go to free up whatever you want to do, that I agree with EMac. Like going to Sarge to me is the one way maybe you get different, even if you left the difference between the two on the table, or if you have a great lineup with Crowder, just drop down to Sarge. I think that makes a lot of sense for this particular slate. So Sarge playing the backup 5, getting meaningful minutes, playing some more minutes alongside DeAndre Ayton as well, which definitely bodes well for his minutes load. I think there's a lot of reasons, especially, Cam Johnson being out too. That doesn't hurt things. There are a lot of ways for Sarge to earn himself some extra run today. So I would agree. Squeak Diesel giving a cool super chat. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Cool Cats postponed. I don't know what that means, but I'm not surprised.
No, it was the Shooting Stars pack got postponed. I actually primed myself with a dog walk. I was like, I'll do this, then I'll take the dogs out a little bit later, and then saw that there was, in fact, no Shooting Stars to be had. They'll be out tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So if you are trying to get your packs, feel free to do that.
All right. So just for because he will never answer any of my thousands of DM questions. This one's for you, Eric Lindquist, if you're still watching. I did just swap to my 1/3 of my lineups. So I'm not doing a complete global swap. I don't think it changed a lot, but I did do that.
Like some of us, you're either a Nico Mannion believer or you're not. And I think that's that's how it goes. I just global swapped and said, hey, just give me all the Nico, replace my Bazemore, replace my Wanamaker. Just cram them in wherever you can. Eric Johnson asking thoughts on Simons on DK for a GPP. His role's been getting squeezed a little bit with Rodney Hood being back in a way that I don't love. So for me, Simons only projected for 15 minutes. I guess if there was a showdown for this or a single game, maybe he's in the mix a little bit more. But for the main slate, even at 3,100, I would rather have any of the guys on Golden State. I'd rather have, I think it's basically it actually, really any of the guys on Golden State and probably Sarge too. I just don't see it for Simons. But EMac, do you feel any differently here about Anthony Simons going in a cushy matchup for whatever it's worth?
No, and I went and looked at kind of his game logs and looked at the rotations feature over there on Add More Funds. Very helpful as well. A little bit cleaner than some of the other websites that do that. I did not like what I saw. I was hoping he would sort of, before Golden State went completely haywire, I was trying to find some value guys last night because I was going to you do a little prep for this, and then I remembered this is NBA the night before the All-Star game. There's no need for prep. Whatever you do is going to be wrong. Just not seeing it. And he's someone I actually like, and I think he's a tick more talented personally than probably 4 of the 5 Golden State cheap guys that we've talked about. But he's not going to get the run, and it's just a tougher matchup and situation for him. So that led me away from him. Sorry, it's not as tough a matchup because it's San Francisco, it's Sacramento, but it's more of a, I don't think he'll get the minutes. He'll probably cap out at 20, whereas I think any one of those other guys could see 26.
And JJT in the YouTube chat asking how many minutes do we have for Bagley? Awesemo has Bagley for 31 minutes. And as I talk about on here, I usually just let those minutes ride because they're the best minutes in the business and the best projections in the business. But that's the one thing I just go, I'll ignore the best player in the world and just freewheel it myself. But that's part of the way that I find it easier to understand basketball. So that's part of the
Did you read the new little disclaimer at the top of our projections?
With that they're done by Steve Zahn and
that they're done by Alex Baker, Sean Zahn, and Steve Buzzard.
I mixed our good old Steve Buzzard and Sean Zahn together into one super.
Steve Zahn and Sean Buzzard.
Also, Steve Zahn was the guy in Saving Silverman.
He was in That Thing You Do. That guy.
Yeah. He honestly probably got canceled at some point, so we shouldn't even talk about Steve Zahn. I feel like that's how it goes. We haven't talked enough about the stars here, and I think for me, this is one slate where we've talked about it enough throughout the day where hopefully you guys know De'Aaron Fox, great play, great price, especially on FanDuel, but on both sides, strong. Damian Lillard, talked about him briefly earlier, but one of my favorite plays on the slate. Ended up with more Giannis than him, which kind of bums me out in hindsight, but still above the field for the main slate. For the late slate, he was a play that I just put in, built around. I think the situation for him against Sacramento is a slate breaker. But EMac, Fox, Lillard, does either one look more appealing to you, or are you just building around both of them as I am tonight?
I think they're the top 2 plays of this slate quite easily. I see someone asking, will Lillard rest? No, he will rest during the All-Star break. He will quote, air quote, rest when Yusuf Nurkic and CJ McCollum come back. But Portland's got to keep winning. They are in 5th right now at 20-14. However, that is just 2 games ahead of basically an entire scrum of people that's going to end up in the play-in tournament. I don't think they want to have to go that route again. So they need to bank wins. They have no margin of error. And if anybody else gets hurt before the reinforcements come back, they're in trouble. So I think we're going to continue to see him playing heavy minutes unless it's a blowout. I believe one of his last games he had seen, for him, he's not seeing over 40, but he's definitely going to get 30 something most nights with the upset for 40, as long as it's a winnable game. Yeah, or it's still within reach and they haven't put it away.
Yeah, Lillard also, I wouldn't say phoned it in yesterday, but certainly was well covered, getting trapped a lot, having to give up a lot of plays. And I feel like that was almost a rest game for him, even though he made the winning plays down the stretch in that game. Like, he still was a guy that was getting double teamed a lot in that first half. I think I mentioned this earlier, but only had 6 shots in the first half. Just this spot is one where they are not going to be able to defend him at all. So I think this is where you get the make good from last night. That was a pretty disappointing effort for him against the Warriors, who he usually does a pretty good job with. Skater Perez asking, do you guys like Buddy Hield? Think some won't play him because of the questionable tag. I do like Buddy. I had to knock his projection down a little bit because Buddy Hield's a guy that always pops up too much for me. And unfortunately, that means that I haven't got enough in the last 2 games that he's actually been good. But I think he's still very much in the mix, and agree that he'll be under-owned for whatever his prospects are because people hate playing questionable guys.
Yes, absolutely. For what it's worth, I have Hield sadly on just 1% of my main slate lineups. But there was a lot of players on the late slate. I've got him, I think, 20%. Let's look real quick. Late slate, I have him 35%. I'm playing 40 lineups.
Yeah, he's running unsustainably well right now, in terms of his performance, but the minutes have been there for him. And even if you give him 34 minutes, as Awesemo did, instead of the 38 to 40, he still projects fairly well. So I can't be mad at playing Buddy Hield. Ben P asking a question. I already answered this in text in the premium Slack, but which is the thing that we do sometimes during the show, and we just are short on time and want to try to hit some things. He asked, would you do a group of Max 1, Mannion, and Wanamaker? I would do that, but at this point for me also, I dug my heels in. I wouldn't play Wanamaker as much, but I agree that the overlap for them is not great, and you probably don't need both value guys in there. So yeah, I wouldn't play them together in the same lineup. I got about 3 minutes left here. Checking both chats here. Bielitsa. Wait, what is this one?
Bielitsa or Saric?
Oh, okay. So he's just that's I don't know what the translation thing was there. I feel like we've answered this one already. Bielitsa is going to be a little bit higher owned, so
Yeah.
I would go to Saric if the rest of your lineup is chalky. But EMac, do you feel like you just take Bielitsa on the assumption that he's been playing minutes and hopefully he'll continue to do so?
Yes. Although you're absolutely right on the difference in the leverage for Saric. He's the better play. If you're in smaller fields, then go ahead and play Bielitsa.
Yeah, Bielitsa is the guy who's going to pop up a lot more in optimizers. So if you're trying to get a little bit different, Sarge would be a pivot you can make there. Going back to the Slack, I think we got all the questions.
Holmes or Wiseman? Definitely Holmes.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, Wiseman is cheap for a reason because the minutes haven't been there for him. If you get a good Wiseman day to day, you're getting it. And a lack of really support to the data of that with how he's played since he's come back. But the usage is there, so certainly can do it. But Holmes is a much safer play, especially if you have the money to spend. Cancer or Covington, I would go back to Cancer today, just on the chance that Sacramento runs cold and there's some more rebounds. And as we saw with Montrezl Harrell, who I think is kind of a decent comp to Enes Cancer, even though not a perfect comp by any stretch. These guys can rack up a lot of rebounds and points and shots at the rim fast against Sacramento because they just don't defend well. So to me, going to Cancer today over Covington, the Covington's had his good days here, and after EMac spurred him to greatness, and now I think Cancer's the guy to go to.
How often does that happen? It's far too often.
Salad Boy saying, how many of the Phoenix Stars do you think play in the second half? I think they'll open the second half at least. I think it's just a matter of how much do they get to minutes wise, but you're probably seeing that third quarter stint. So the minutes projections 32, 34 for Booker, 32 for Paul, 29 for Ayton. That feels on the conservative end enough for me. I think you're not getting 40 out of these guys. It's very unlikely you're getting 40 out of these guys. We've seen crazier things recently. All right. And we are locked. EMac, any final thoughts here? Give the people the big sell, the big plug for our all-star content coming up on Sunday that you're going to dedicate countless hours of game watching every previous all-star game to make sure you're fully ready for this moment.
I will be looking Saturday morning at the rosters. I will be reading some social media, and I will see who the coaches are. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Who knows exactly what's going to happen? This is going to be fun. The All-Star game, your general basic guideline is usually the starters tend to see about 10 to 15% more minutes than the players off the bench. If you are a big, you're going to see the least amount of minutes. And if you're in the Rising Stars, which is I didn't realize they were going to do. I think they're playing. I don't think they just named people to that. I still thought they were going to pull the plug on this long ago, but here we are. On the Rising Stars, pick players that can shoot the three. That is the key thing. So go look and see how people are doing this year and over their career. For them, it's not going to be very many, but see what they did last year as well, and or what they did in college, because it's just going to be a 3-point fest. Those are my key
Interesting
points.
I said that just assuming it was a joke that you had done, but EMac does his
I've written articles for this before. I've done shows for this before.
There you go. Tom saying the Rising Stars aren't playing, just a ceremonial list.
Okay,
so
okay. There we go.
So there you're safe. But hey, take that EMac bit of wisdom. Remember it for next
year.
We appreciate all you guys watching. I think I'm off shows for a few days, so I appreciate all of you for watching all the shows. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Check out some of the NHL, PGA, MMA, all the NASCAR content that'll be coming up this weekend. There's still a lot of things on the channel, so support some of the other hosts out there. Give them a shot. Check out EMac and Terry on Sunday, as well as we have a strategy show as well with Josh. So make sure we're watching all those things on Sunday for the All-Star game, and we appreciate you guys. So hope these games go well for you. Keep the tilt to a minimum, and we'll see you guys again soon. Bye.